Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another series of JavaScript hacks, tips and focus. Today we're going to talk about five more things in addition to the ones we've been talking about. Let me start with the very first one. It's the fact that objects declared as constant. In fact, constant objects can be changed in JavaScript. Normally you can't change constant variables in JavaScript except for objects. And if you go rapidly to Google to search why, you can read from my screen. It says the properties of the object itself are free to change. It's just that the constant declaration creates a read-only reference. So if I come to our example, this is the constant object. User is just a reference, but the properties itself can be changed. That is why on line 14, I changed this name from John to DJ, and now I can print the username. And let me go back to my web page. Sorry. If I refresh, you see it prints DJ. So take that into mind. Even when you assign constants to objects, the inner values of that object can be changed. The second thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that object keys can only be strings or symbols. Now we all know what are strings in JavaScript, but for symbols we'll talk about it in another video. But from our example in the screen, we can see we have a user object with two properties, name and server, and with values slash and tests. Let me put this one to something more readable. John, name is John, and 7 is the value test. So like I said before, object properties can only be strings or symbols. Now this is a property that is 7, and normally we have no respected conventions, but what happens in the background is the fact that this property is going to be converted into a string, because properties are supposed to be strings, so it's going to be converted in a string, such that if you look at line 16, if I write alert user of 7, you see 7 is written like a string. It's going to print test. So if I refresh our page, you are going to notice it wrote test, because in the background this property is converted to a string. So make sure for good practices to not write string values, integer values, as a property for objects. The third thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that there are two ways to define object methods. This is the first way on the screen. You can see we have a user object with a property name that whose value is John. The second one is say hi, which is just a function that says hi. Now we can try to print the function user that say hi, and if I refresh the page, you see it just says hi. Now I was saying there are two ways to define this function. This is the first one, and the second one you can just write it like this, like that. Just write the function name and parentheses, and then the curly braces after, and you dive right into the body of your function. It works also like that. So those are the two ways. Let me just refresh this page so that you can see. Say hi, it says hi. These are the two ways you can define object methods or functions. The fourth thing we're going to talk about is the this keyword. The this that is usually used in object to reference its own properties. This, like in our example, this line 17. Okay, let's move in. The this keyword is not bound. What do I mean by it's not bound? If we look at our example on line 13, there is a user object with one property name whose name is John. There is another object admin whose name is Super John. Pretty straightforward. And there is a function called say hi that alerts this.name. Say hi is just an independent function. It's not a method of an object. It's just they're very loose. So if we wanted to use this function as a method for both objects. Normally both objects were supposed to have it as property, but we can define it loose, like it's defined outside here, and still print this.name, and then we can create local properties of admin and user here in line 20 and 21, and copy this is an equal sign, and copy the function inside, such that when we say hi, it's going to say hi for both a user and admin. So what happens is that it's sort of like bind this function as methods of user and admin. This is a very bad programming practice, but I just wanted to let you know that you can see this keyword is defined in a function independently. It is not bound to an object, but when we assign it into an object property here, when we call it, it works for that object. If I refresh the page, you're going to see, let me refresh, sorry. It says hi John, and it says hi Super John from this example. So this is on line 20 and 21. This is the assignment actions that actually binds them. But in the beginning, it's just a loose function with a this keyword involved, even though it is not yet assigned to an object, such that when we bind it on line 20 and 21, and then we call it, it works as if it was part of the object. This is a very bad way of coding. It's very difficult to maintain the code. So I just want to let you know that this keyword is not bound, but this is not a proper way of programming methods in JavaScript. The last thing we're going to talk about is the fact that you can call a constructor function without a parenthesis if the function doesn't have arguments. Now let's go into our examples. You're going to understand better. Normally constructor functions are like classes for object-oriented programming. By convention in JavaScript, they are defined with capital letters. So you can say this is our constructor function on line 14, gamer, with two properties: the role, which is like I've given a value, fighter name, and the gun, weapon name. Now, if we look at our example on line 9, from line 19, this is Ken. Let Ken. This is a variable. I declare a new gamer. Now, normally I'm supposed to put a parenthesis here. New gamer. That is how a constructor function is initialized. And if I alert Ken.role, is going to display fighter name. So let me refresh my page. Oh, there is an error. Let's check the syntax. Debugging is part of the code. Let me go to the console. Okay, here. Unexpected it's assignment functions. Sorry, if I refresh. Now the code has been corrected. It was some assignments function operators here, not the two dots. So when we say new gamer and we alert, Ken.role is going to display a fighter name. So if I refresh the page, you can see it writes fighter name. But since this is a function without any arguments, I can call it from line 19 without the parentheses, and it works like that very smoothly. So this parenthesis, it's very much optional. And that's the last thing we are going to have talked about today. I hope this has been very informational and very helpful, and I wish that we continue with more scripts on following videos. Now you can subscribe, share with your friends, and I hope we're going to see you next time. Good day.